Good afternoon, everybody. This is Coach Wildman, and this is In the Fifth Set with Autumn Bailey, pro athlete and national team volleyball athlete on the Canadian women's team. Thanks for joining us, Autumn.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
This new segment that we're doing is, we want to touch base with athletes, coaches, trainers, and sort of have a topic. And, you've had quite the journey in the volleyball world. Through your playing experience going up the ranks. Can you tell everyone kind of where you started and let's go through the storyline?
Yeah, sure. I started playing when I was 10 years old. My older sister went to a tryout for our club team, Burlington Blaze at the time, and it was for a 14U team, and I just went and didn't really think I'd make it, but thought the tryout could be kind of fun. And Rob Fernley, he was our coach, he ended up picking me, so I played 4 years up and then kind of started there and then never stopped after that, and went through all my club years till 18U. Ended up finishing with Defensa, which was a club that kind of started up when I was 16 years old, and then went to college after that.
So when you were going through the club program, and Defensa is an amazing club out in Ontario, always have very strong teams. Was there a point during your youth playing career where you were pointed towards, okay, you're playing post-secondary, and how did that work out? Was it one specific coach? Was it the club, or was it your family? How did that all work out?
Yeah, I think that I always thought I would play post-secondary I think probably since I was like 12. I was like, this is pretty fun. I see that you can play at the college level, and it's something I would want to do, so I was interested. And then Rob kind of opened up our eyes to playing in the States, which I never really thought about. I lived close to the Master and thought, like, oh, maybe I'll end up going there. And then when I was 16, that's when we started going down to the States for tournaments, and college coaches start contacting you, and so it was kind of this whole new world to me. And that's when I saw that I could go to the States and play in the NCAA. So yeah, it was kind of the dream once I knew it was a thing, and then I was just looking forward to that after club.
Sure. And I mean, you went to Marquette, was your first post-secondary, and then you moved over to Michigan State. But during right now, especially with COVID, athletes are desperate. They come across desperate trying to lock down a place for next year because there's potentially no seasons across the country. What was your guiding light? Did you have any recruiting apps that you used? Was it a very overwhelming experience? Was there multiple colleges and universities looking at you? How did that all work out?
Yeah, I would say it was a bit overwhelming. Mostly when I was 16, we started playing in primarily tournaments in the States. We'd go down to New York and kind of just all around Chicago and play some big tournaments there. And we're just exposed to coaches. And then Rob had coaches coming into the gym and coming to watch in that, and Canadian coaches too. So I think most of my recruiting process was just going to tournaments and playing and being contacted by coaches. So it's overwhelming for sure, especially as a Canadian. I think there's probably more information out there about it now, but you don't really know reputations or coaches. It's not like familiar names, so it's just a lot, and you don't know if you're looking at a top school, and you can obviously do your research, but I think that there's just schools and coaches and teams have reputations and how they do in their conference, and it varies from year to year sometimes, and some are consistent, so it's hard to know what you're looking at, but so most of it was just playing in the States, I would say.
Sure. So you went on to play at Marquette. How did that all work out for you? What was it very overwhelming? You're there as a I guess they're called freshmen, and you have big crowds coming out. They're holding signs, Autumn Bailey, #1, all this stuff. And what was that experience like, as an athlete, as a young woman, being able to, away from home, and then now you're in this whole environment where the U.S. is very big into their sports, right? So it's another overwhelming experience for you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally overwhelming and exciting at the same time. I think in club I had never really felt like, you get nervous for games and there's that, but then there's stats are involved and people are talking about your numbers and your percentages, and all of a sudden you start to pay attention to that, and then there's fans at your games and people know who you are. And so I think that starts to become like, yeah, it's a bit overwhelming, but exciting. And I think Marquette did a really great job of supporting us. And I think I felt pretty comfortable there early on. You start preseason in August there. And we got there, I think, probably middle of the summer, and you start getting kind of adapted, take some summer classes and get used to it. So I think I could adapt to college life pretty quick. But yeah, once you go to the games, it's just a really crazy experience, and Michigan State was even more so.
Now, what was the underlining factor going from Marquette to Michigan State? Was Marquette an NCAA Div 1 school?
Yeah.
So, and then you go to Michigan State, which was a Div 1 school as well.
Yes.
And then NCAA is such a huge, brand company down there, and there's so many rules and regulations and stuff like that. Do you have to be released, or do you have to sit out a year? How did that work during the transition period?
Yeah, so I asked for my release after my second year at Marquette. It's weird. You just kind of go to the coach and say, hey, I'm thinking of transferring. Can I have my release? And they can pretty much grant you your release totally, or they can say, like, you can go here, here, here. You can't go to these schools. It's kind of in their hands what they choose to do. So my coach was nice, and he gave me my release, and I was allowed to go wherever I wanted to go. So that was lucky. I think the rule is if you transfer within the same conference, you have to sit out for a year. So yeah, the NCAA is pretty strict with it, but I was conference to conference, so I was able to start right away.
So that leads to a great question for especially youth in this day and age. That's an extremely difficult conversation that you have to have with your current coach. Yeah. Were your parents involved?
Totally, yeah. My parents weren't involved in the conversation. That was kind of on me. And I thought about it for a long time. It kind of all started, my coach at Marquette that had recruited me. He left and went to the Big Ten conference.
Okay.
And so that was kind of like, I kind of went there in hopes to be coached by him. So I kind of started thinking about transferring and had talked to my current coach at Marquette a little bit about it, stayed for another year. And then, yeah, it was on me to have the conversation with him. And it was hard. And also I made really good relationships and had really great teammates, and I just loved the school. It just wasn't quite the level that I wanted to play at. So it's a tough one when it's no hard feelings and there's not really, you're just kind of trying to do the best thing for yourself. So yeah, hard conversation. My parents were involved on my end, that they guided me and helped me a little bit, but yeah, ultimately it fell on my shoulders. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing that us as coaches really want to kind of provide opportunity for athletes to be able to stand for themselves and have those tough conversations, and detaching the parents in the moment, but obviously having them there in the background to be a supporting role and stuff like that, rather than your parents approaching your coach asking on your behalf.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a really, with a lot of recruiting these days, when I talk to my athletes and athletes that I work with, it's like, you gotta drive the car on this one. This is your car to drive, and no one else can drive it. So you got to stand up for what you think. And so down in the States, obviously there's a lot more funding in sports, and it is a business. Those coaches, if they don't win, they don't last very long. Right. So you go over to Michigan State. Tell us about your experience there.
Yeah, I loved Michigan State. It was a really great experience. It was the Big Ten also. So the Big Ten is arguably the strongest conference. There's a few others that are super strong as well. But from top to bottom, it's pretty tough every night. So that was kind of the goal for me, and I wanted to see if I could compete at that level, and that's exactly what I got. Got there, the girls were great. Started the first game against Kentucky. It was kind of funny because I actually was choosing in the end between Kentucky and Michigan State. Went to Kentucky for the first game of preseason and tore my ACL in the fourth set. So that year was a bit of a write-off. So I didn't actually have to sit out for transfer reasons, but for injury I redshirted that year. And then yeah, the rest of it was great. Ended up going to the Elite Eight in my senior year, and yeah, lots of good memories from there.
So obviously volleyball, we would all love to play it until we're 100, or coach it or be a part of it. And there's different roads that, for people that can do that. But at the end of the day, you went to Michigan State and you graduated with what degree?
I studied elementary education, so
okay.
Elementary school teacher.
Awesome. Okay, I can see that. So now you've also played pro. Now, did you move into pro prior to the Canadian national team, or was it kind of they coincide with each other? I know the seasons coincide that you can do both, but you played club. You decide to go to post-secondary. Now you're playing post-secondary. When did you get the transition? Like, okay, maybe I can play pro or play national team.
I think pro and national team was also a goal from a young age. I really think since I was probably 12, 13 years old that it was kind of once I saw that these were all potentials, that was just the goal. And so I just saw what the path was to get there, and that was kind of why I transferred to, just thinking, well, my ultimate goal is to play the national team, to play professionally, and to be good on the world stage.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was the best steps for me. But yeah, I actually ended up playing national team first. So I graduated from Michigan State 2017, I think, or 2018. Then started my first summer with the national team, and then my first season of pro after that.
So how was that transition just on a coaching level? Obviously, the athletes that you're playing with are older than you. Your role on the team, how do you jump into that environment? Obviously, there's a whole ton of nerves there, but you've played at the highest levels of the NCAA. But how do you take that on as an athlete and as a person?
Yeah, I think it was tough. I think playing in the Big Ten prepared me for national team level and also international level volleyball. So I got here and adapted pretty quickly to the pace of the game, and learning and being teachable, I think, helped a lot. Just trying to switch to the system that my coach wanted to run at the time and all that. It is weird joining with older girls. Definitely different than college. In college, you have a set amount of people for however long, and sure, people graduate every year, but you have so much time to get to know people. And here, national team, different rosters are going, and people have their own lives outside of volleyball. It becomes a job. So, I mean,
sure.
We do spend tons of time with each other outside of practice, but it's just not like college. College, I guess, you kind of like go home and you live together and do this. And then there's girls who are married and girls who have families out here. And so it was a weird transition to be like, oh, people just come and they do the job, and then they can go and get some space from volleyball. And I feel like I didn't do that as much in college. So that was something to adapt to a little bit.
Sure. And you, if I'm correct here, you had a chance to experience two national team coaches here in Canada, each with very, very different traits and personalities. How is it being on the national level and transitioning with coaches? Obviously, your university coach to your national team coaches to then going overseas and playing in Europe, and they're all doing potentially different setups and defense and all that stuff. And you have a short time to comprehend all that and be at the highest level of your performance. So, what are some things that athletes can that you would recommend for athletes going through those stages on the pro level and national team level?
That is a great point. I mean, it's super tough going from national team, and you learn one system, you learn how to pass, how the coach wants you to, and you're trying to be teachable and learn, and then you go to pro and they don't want you to do that at all, and you do something completely different. So I think just being open, like, you're kind of just making it more difficult for yourself if you're going to put up a fight against what they want you to do. And also for pro and national team, you're there for at least, let's say, 4 or 5 months. So it's worth taking the time and changing to what they want you to do. It's difficult for sure to switch passing forms or change your block technique or system, but there's a lot of things that are consistent throughout the whole, just through skills in general. So I think you can keep a lot of that the same and just make adjustments based on what your coaches want you to do. And that being said, I think in pro, a lot of the time when you're a foreigner going to pro, if you're doing something well, they might want you to change something about the system that they're doing, but I don't know that they're necessarily tweaking your skills. And if they are, yeah, like, you're adjusting to it. But I think that if you're doing something well and it's working for you, that maybe they're not going to fix it. But national team for sure, Tom, this summer, or I guess almost 3 summers ago, broke a lot of skills down, and we kind of rebuilt them from the ground up. But it's something you buy into. He was talking about making skills repeatable and kind of just perfecting things. And when we broke it down and watched game tape or just practice tape, I could see that I wasn't doing repeatable things. And so it was worth it to me to really try to hone in on those and perfect those skills. And hopefully then you don't get changes with that when you go to your pro team, but it happens. So
yeah. And Russ Rose from Penn State, we had him on the Coaches series, and he made an interesting point. He's more of a tell it how it is, and that's how he rolls. And he made an interesting comment of, no matter if the national team head coach changes, volleyball's volleyball, and some things just never change, right? And it's just perfecting the basics. And I know coaching at U18 and higher, some people are expecting really big things, and it's just like, no, let's still stick to those fundamentals and really perfect them. And I think Tom Black's awesome. So he was really nice guy. Yeah.
We just that's totally true. I mean, like, footwork is something that doesn't change. If you can perfect footwork, that's through all levels, it's important. And Rob was huge on that in club. We started with footwork and knew all position footwork, and that was just like such an important thing to him. And it really helped me going from club to university, just to have that already down and not have to learn those things. And technical things sometimes are just consistent throughout the levels. So.
Yeah. And so we'll come back to the national team, but I've been able to interview quite a number of national team athletes and pro athletes that have gone overseas. So we're gonna take a step overseas here and talk about your pro career as a female athlete, woman in sport. I've heard lots of horror stories of playing pro. It's not all roses and unicorns and all that stuff and pixie dust. So how was it for you?
Yeah, my first pro season was in Turkey. Turkey's one of the top leagues in the world right now.
Yeah.
And it's cutthroat, super cutthroat. It's kind of like perform or get out. We don't need, they pick up whoever they need. So I think there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And there's an adjustment for sure going from university where you have some sort of job security in a sense, and then going to that. And so that was different for sure. And then going to a new country, and culturally it's totally different. And I think just how sports are viewed there, or how maybe women are viewed, that's maybe different than what we do in North America. So all of those things were adjustments. And I think it's a tough experience, being away from family and being on I think we were 12 hours apart, time change. And so I think those are all things you have to get used to. I mean, nothing in the grocery store is in English. You're using Google Translate, trying to find your groceries and all that. So definitely different, but I think it's a growth thing, and you kind of grow through it. So
sure. And I know there's tons and tons of club and university athletes that are definitely aspire to go overseas, play pro. What an amazing experience for cultural and you get to play the game you love. I mean, there's so many wins to it, but I definitely have heard, depending on the country that you're in, and I'm not speaking for Turkey, but other countries where they say you're gonna get paid a certain amount, and then come payday, you didn't get anything, or you got like half of what you were supposed to get, right? So there's some stuff to be definitely aware of. Now, did you have an agent that you work with here in Canada or in the States that got you a contract over there?
Yeah, I have an agent. He's actually Turkish. He's a pretty well-known guy overseas. And he just advocates for me, and I think it's important to find an agent that you trust and that is going to advocate for you and you're the priority, because a lot of stuff can happen over there that you don't necessarily get to control or have control over. So I think that's important. But I have an agent, and we'll continue to work with him now.
Awesome. So okay, we'll jump back to the national team, and you're playing at the highest level. You're on the national team. Things are going well, and then you get injured.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. We were in Peru, so we kind of got back from pro early May. Started with the national team like 4 days out, 4 days later. Went to Quebec. You had to win a tournament in Quebec to then go to this Challenger Cup in Peru. So we won the tournament in Quebec. Go to Peru. We're like firing on all cylinders. We didn't know how to stand against these European teams. We had played Puerto Rico and Mexico when we were in Quebec, and so this was going to be a new challenge. And we're just flying through pool play. I think we swept everyone that we played. It wasn't until the finals, so we're playing Czech Republic in the finals, which you had to win this tournament to qualify for VNL, which Canada women's volleyball had never done at the time. So we're up 2 games to none, and the end of the second set, I just jumped to joust a ball. She kind of tips it off my hand this way, so I'm in the air landing, and I look left, and I see that the ball's going left, and knowing when I land, I need to turn and go get the ball. So I kind of land, and while I'm turning, I'm also landing. So it's kind of like a textbook ACL tear. So tore my ACL, and actually did a lot more damage than just that. So.
And was it the same ACL from
ACL? Yeah, and it felt the exact same. So the first time I tore it, I thought, well, hopefully it's just like dislocated. I don't even know if that's a thing, but hopefully. And this time it was like, I know that it happened again. So it was pretty devastating. Yeah.
So I mean, it's such a relevant topic in this day and age. You're a top athlete. What sort of blow is this to your mental health?
Yeah, it's huge. It's kind of a struggle every day. I've been out now for over a year and a half, and it's kind of volleyball. I've talked about it on a couple different podcasts and just with my friends and family, that volleyball is, and whether you want to admit that or not, it kind of is my identity. And I started at a young age, and having success at a young age, and knowing this is what I wanted to do with my life, it becomes your identity and the reason people celebrate you and the reason people know who you are. And so I think when that's all taken from you, and not just that, I mean, your job is taken, your source of income, your friends, the people you're around, it's kind of like your world is just flipped on its head. And so I think it's a huge mental battle. And besides that, just being active and being able to do something you're good at is taken from you too. So I think it's a lot to adjust to, and I don't know that as athletes we're necessarily trained to have, or I mean, I guess if you specialize at a young age, you're kind of just tunnel vision to this one goal. And I think balance, I've learned, is so important through both of these injuries, because when all of that's taken from you, I don't think that I had a ton of other things going on that I was interested in or that I had put time into. And so I've been faced with that both times, just kind of like, what else do I like to do? And it's been difficult. I don't know that I've found those things. I've tried to kind of immerse myself in other things, but I just don't think anything has come close to how I feel about volleyball and the passion I feel for it. And because it's my job and my passion all wrapped into one thing, it's definitely tough to replace. And yeah, just trying to live and go on doing rehab and get through each day without that. Yeah, it's tough for sure, and I think it's not an easy thing to go through. No,
and you've been through it once, and you played again, which is awesome. That's amazing, right? Like, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but that type of injury sometimes that's it. That's you know what I mean. And you came back and still played at the highest level, still played overseas and stuff like that, and you're going through rehabilitation right now. But for the younger athletes that are going to watch this and listen to this, you're there playing in a far away from home. This happens. Your parents are a phone call away. Who was there? Who was your guiding light? Maybe it was another athlete on the team. Maybe it was some of the coaching staff, or maybe it was a combination of both. But obviously, this is a devastating moment for you as a professional athlete. As you look back on it, who was there that really kind of kept you from just totally going off the deep end?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of a crazy story. I mean, I had my whole team. They were so supportive and around, and everyone was equally as devastated. Alexa Gray, one of my close teammates, she was there for me a lot. Everybody was.
Sure.
On the way back, actually, I don't know, Megan Sear, she's a setter on our team. She was flying back from Peru to switch out with our other setter, Bree King. And so it just so happened that Meg was going to be flying back after this tournament, and so Megan and I were able to fly back together, which was like so fortunate for me because I don't know I would have made it back from Peru on my own. But Meg and I lived across the hall from each other all summer, so we kind of kept each other sane and we became really close. And she was having a hard time not being out there with the team, and I obviously was having a hard time, and so we both just spent a ton of time together and kept each other occupied and trying to have fun in that. So I think she was kind of like the person who saved me during the summer and kept me on a decent mental path.
Yeah, and our heart goes out to Megan Sierra and her family with her passing of her father recently. You know, she's always, you know, on all her Facebook and Instagram posts and everyone who follows her. She's just a big personality with a huge bright smile and always smiling, right? So obviously tough times in the Sierra family. So frustrated. You know, I lost my father 6 months ago, so I understand the pain that she's going through, right? So, but you know, as a pro with this injury, where are you at right now with your rehabilitation? How's it look?
I practically go to rehab every day. I'm lifting a lot. It's a weird thing. It's a cartilage injury, so the ACL is practically healed, but I had what's called a microfracture surgery, and it's a pretty intricate little surgery to try to regenerate cartilage that is lost in your knee. And for some reason, the cartilage, I don't know if it's regenerated or what, but its joint surfaces are kind of grinding on each other. So I just have pain with it. So right now we're just trying to build strength without loading my cartilage too much or my knee too much, and build as much strength as I can through that. So that's pretty much what I do on a day-to-day basis. Go walk on the zero gravity treadmill and go to the pool, and yeah, just kind of a lot of rehab and being in the gym, but I like it and it gives me something to do, so it's not the worst thing. I would prefer to play volleyball.
Of course. So you're not back on the court yet, but you're heading in the right direction. There's been definitely positive progression through your weight training and stuff like that.
Yeah, we kind of track the pain, and the pain seems to be decreasing. And besides that, I had an MRI actually yesterday, and just to see kind of what's going on and if it has improved in the cartilage. And so I think after that we'll know which steps to take next. But I've definitely gained strength, which is a positive thing. So.
Well, I know you're a fan favorite for sure. So you have been missed during your time off here due to this injury. So with all these aspiring athletes wanting to obviously be in your shoes, any final thoughts? You know, words of wisdom that you would give you know, these young ladies that are playing club or school volleyball right now, wanting to pursue the next level?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me at a young age was just getting exposure, not only to like coaches and other people, but other players, and playing as many tournaments as you can, and just reaching out. You can get a whole, especially in this day and age, you have so much contact with anyone you want to talk to and ask questions, and people are willing to answer. So I think just trying to get better, and now we can take videos of ourselves and watch it back, and you just have so many resources. So I think you can really develop at a young age. Obviously tough through COVID, but I think there's still a lot you can do during that. And so yeah, just to put yourself out there, and I don't think it's ever too far to reach. You can talk to coaches and look for schools that you want to go to, and just keep looking for the next big thing and the next big step, and trying to prepare yourself if these are your goals for that. So
to finish off here, Autumn, and I really appreciate your time. What's Autumn Bailey's future look like? What's in your perfect world? What's your kind of 1, 3, 5 year goal sets?
Yeah, right now, obviously to just rehab and come back as strong and healthy as I can. I don't anticipate getting back on the court until my knee is at 100% or as close to 100% as I can get it. But long term, I think I'd like to go back to pro. I still have some things I want to accomplish over there, and some teams I'd like to play for, and just then play with national team, and hopefully try to go to the Olympics. That's obviously a lot of our ultimate goals is to be at the Olympics. But I see myself long term also, I'll switch to beach at some point, and that's kind of always been a passion of mine too. I'm actually like a little bit more suited, it seems, for the beach with my height and my playing style. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll be able to make the switch at some point. I don't know when yet, but would also love to go to the Olympics and play at a high level for beach volleyball. So that's kind of my long-term plan, and I guess elementary education somewhere in there.
Sure. Fair enough. Now, if people want to follow you and watch your progress, I know you have an Instagram account and other types of social media. Where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, for sure. Instagram, my Instagram handle is autumnbailey02, I think. So you can follow me on there, or really you can just message me anywhere. I'll respond. I don't have a ton going on right now, so would love to help or answer questions or whatever it is. Awesome,
Autumn. Well, I appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck in your recovery. You're a huge fan of so many, and you're such an aspiration for athletes who have gone through all different things. And we just hope for the best for you, and hope to see you on the court sooner than later.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, take care, Autumn. Talk to you later.